Well, good Monday morning to you. Today we read from Matthew 24:29 through 44. It gets through some of this apocalyptic stuff. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branches become tender and put out leaves, you know that summer is near. So also when you see all these things, you know that he is near at the very gates. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. For as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark, and they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding at the mill, and one will be taken and one left. Therefore stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not let his house be broken into. Therefore you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. So, here it is appropriate for Advent, actually, that we talk about this because we've got Jesus predicting apocalyptic endings. You know, the sun is going to fall from the sky and not be burning anymore, and the stars are going to fall out of the sky. And we have a kind of a popular picture of that, but I want you to stop and think. If the stars fell out of the sky, where are they going to fall to? I mean, there's no bottom, right? And they're not going to fall to the earth. If you think about it, that's crazy. But in the ancient Near Eastern worldview, you had the earth and the kind of a dome, plastic dome, I call it, over the earth. And then the stars hung down from that. So if they fell, they fall down to earth. They didn't understand the stars as big suns somewhere, huge things millions of miles away. So with our cosmology, some of these details begin to be like, how could this happen? This doesn't happen. But what Jesus is describing is clearly this terrible thing where even creation itself is coming apart. And how are we going to survive that? And then he talks at some length about the fact that no one knows when this is going to happen. And, if the man had known what time the thief was coming, he'd have stayed awake and cocked his shotgun and said, "Hey, get out of my house." But he didn't do that because he didn't know when the thief was coming. It's like those little kids in the commercial. They're going to wait for Santa, and they've got their iPad all set up, and they're watching for Santa. And, of course, at 2:30, it shows them sleeping, and Santa's out there giggling, in the living room. If they'd known when he was coming, they would have made arrangements to be awake then, but they didn't know. Similarly, we don't know when Jesus will return. Excuse me. And a lot of people get a great deal of mileage out of predicting and looking at this and that. And they, every 15 minutes on Facebook, you see someone saying, "It's time, it's almost time. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming." Well, and he might be coming. But I'm not going to worry about predicting it. And I'm not going to worry about reading the signs and being ready and all that stuff. He'd be ready all the time. Whenever he should come, great, that's great. But I'm not going to worry about trying to predict it. Those people that do predict it, of course, are always wrong. And then they have to go back and say, well, yeah, we forgot to factor in the sort of some other thing. And so it's just nuts. So we're not going to do that. we're going to say, let's be ready to meet Jesus all the time, anytime, and he can come whenever suits God to do it. And in the meantime, we have work to do. We have a calling. We have to proclaim the love of God to the world. Because the world gets a lot of fear, especially from passages like this. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be scared of. But trust in God, and God is love. So trust him. And we're closing in on Christmas, and so hope your preparations are going well. We'll see you soon. See you tomorrow.